thank you everyone for being here today and welcome to our Spring Service Learning Symposium. We're all very excited to have you all here. It's always great when we have this event and we get all the community partners and the students to participate and share on their service learning experience. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Daniela and I am an EDJE fellow and I will be moderating our event today. So I'm very glad that you all could be here. Our theme this semester is Walk the Edge, and EDGE stands for Education Dedicated to Justice and Equity, which is what our EDGE Fellowship also stands for. So thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and start it off, and I will kind of introduce our symposium. Like I said, my name is Daniela. I'm a senior psychology major with a minor in community action and social change. This also means I'm graduating, which is really crazy to think how fast the 4 years have flown by. And I've been doing service learning ever since my freshman year. So this is actually probably my last time that I will be on Zoom doing one of these events with you all. So thank you all for being here. A little bit about my service learning experience. Like I said, I started freshman year. I took 2 service learning classes within the same semester, no idea what they were. And now I'm here in my last year. And I've been very fortunate as a Spanish speaker that I was put in this group of other students who are bilingual, and we were kind of mobilized to support a lot of the projects in the Canal community in San Rafael. And that's kind of where I've been all throughout this time. I've been very fortunate to work in different areas of Canal Alliance. And even right now, I have a position there part-time where I'm working with the adult education team, which is really great. So that's something that I'll be continuing on for the rest of the summer. But overall, just to reflect on this experience, it's been really great. I think service learning is definitely my favorite part of Dominican. I started off doing the digital literacy project over Zoom and working with parents and supporting them with all of their technology skills and kind of just navigating how to do everything online during the pandemic. And from that, I just kept going, and I've done the EDGE Fellowship now. And I've had a lot of opportunities to work with different groups. Some of my favorites have definitely been like in the Canal, Voces del Canal, working with all the wonderful women who lead that team and all their projects around housing and advocacy. I was able to do an internship with them, and it was going door to door and, gathering people who want to sign up to vote and just like educating people on the whole process and kind of spreading out that information to the Canal community. And most recently, I've been working with the Law AB60 project, which works with Canal Alliance, Dominican, and we have Dr. Leon, who works very hard with that project, and also Legal Aid of Marin and the Public Defender's Office. And that's been a wonderful experience. I didn't get to do it as much this semester as I would have hoped, but I've been there kind of supporting with them with different workshops that we had, and really the whole project is aimed at supporting community members and obtaining their license and going through that whole process, because as we realized, it's not as simple as it may seem to a lot of us who, we have our driver's license and we drive, and sometimes it's something that you take for granted, but being in the community and working with all the people there, we realize how important it is and how important that project is. So I'm really grateful to have been a part of it, and I definitely appreciate all of the service learning experiences that I've had. So thank you all for letting me do that and letting me be your MC again. And I will now pass it on to Dr. Leon, and I think we'll get to talk a little bit more about our AB60 project.
Thank you, Daniela. How's everyone doing? I know it's campus feels a little quieter today, and I am at our new Center for Community Engagement office, which is really nice and really fancy. So I hope you all have a chance to come by and use the space to study and to really make the most out of the last couple of days we have on campus. As Daniela shared with you, we are part of the AB60 partnership. I've had the good fortune to build this partnership with the Public Defender's Office, with Canal Alliance, and with Leo of Marin, and one lead from each organization. It started with 4 women really coming together and trying to figure out what this partnership would look like. And I just wanted to share with you all how grateful we are. The partners who couldn't be here with us today wanted to at least express how happy they are with our students. Our students have really stepped in to help a great number of community members. As Daniela mentioned, she actually was at the beginning of this partnership. We launched it in the summer with like 3 students, 3 or 4 students that came by they volunteered their time to come help us, build this. And we were expecting 15 students, or sorry, community members, and we ended up with over 100 that first day. And the second workshop, we were expecting about 30, and we ended up with 60. So, really, the need is there, and our students have really stepped up. And over the last year, we have had 2 successful semesters of this project, and every semester it looks different. And that really is thanks to the community members and the students who give us a lot of feedback as to what else is needed, what's next, what's the next iteration of the project. And at first, it was a lot of information sharing. It was a lot of letting people know that they could apply to driver's licenses even if they were undocumented. And we helped them with reducing a lot of language barriers, technological barriers, all sorts of different ways that our students stepped in. And now we're realizing that one of our biggest hurdles is going to the DMV, and really the process of being a Spanish-speaking community member who has challenges and difficulties with being at the DMV. And we learned that now we can take the tests remotely. And our community partners have stepped up, and our students have stepped up, and now we can do the testing for community members on sites at our community partnerships. And that's sort of the new iteration of where we're at right now. So a true testament to how a project can morph and how it can move and change when we have a dedicated set of students and community members. And part of what I wanted to share with you all today is that doing that kind of work takes time and money. And so far, all of the technology we use is either the partners or our students, but we applied to a grant, hoping for the best, and we got a small grant. Yay, thank you so much to everyone who helped us do that. We got a small grant, and that grant is helping us with getting computers so people can test on site, so we can get more people to test. It's helping us with technology so we can better track our data, and we can better help folks along this process and keep better track and be able to communicate with more ease from students and faculty and some of the community partners. So we're kind of in a new exciting phase of this partnership. And we couldn't have done it without the students. We couldn't have done it with the hard work that each of our students does. Every week, they show up to Espacio de Apoyo, spaces of support, as we call them, and they work one-on-one with community members to help them get their driver's licenses. And we're just so grateful and sad that semester has ended and you are all moving on to summer plans and to graduations and things like that. And we'd love for those of you in the room who are interested about AB 60 or have an interest in law, an interest in working with undocumented immigrants, an interest in working with the public defender's office, an interest in working with legal aid. We'd love for you to join us next year. Keep your eyes out for any opportunities coming to join the project. And if you're in service learning next semester, I hope you consider adding this partnership and joining us in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leon. That's so amazing to hear that update about the grant. That's super exciting. And just like she mentioned, if anyone is interested and you're not graduating yet, this is such a good opportunity. So highly recommend if you're a Spanish speaker and you want to work on this project. I think it's really great and you should definitely try it out if you have not yet participated. So with that, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to our next speaker. So now we will pass it on to Azan, who is also an EDJE fellow, and he'll be talking about his experiences at Rotocare.
Hi, thank you. I'm Azan Yousaf. I'm a third-year bio and social justice major with a minor in chemistry. And the SL class that I took this semester was housing and homelessness. Rotocare focuses mainly on providing healthcare services to Latinx immigrants or uninsured or undocumented people. And so thinking about how to connect it to housing and homelessness would be a challenge. But that's when I learned about the theory of gentrification, or what gentrification is and how it's affecting Canal residents. Currently, there are a lot of Latinx residents that reside in the Canal neighborhood, and gentrification can make the access to healthcare more difficult for the low-income residents because of the cost of living, displacement, and loss of community health resources. And so my focus was just trying to understand how those can correlate. Worrying about your immigration status is one thing, but then having to worry about housing rights and then having to worry about your healthcare rights become kind of this multifaceted idea of marginalization. So my work with the community was just trying to understand if there could be any work that Rotocare could possibly do to try to help the people that live in these gentrified areas, or what we can do to continue it further. And yeah, just this idea of trying to battle gentrification was the main focus of this semester.
Thank you so much, Azan, for sharing that super important part of working in the canal and connecting it with your service learning experience. I will go ahead and pass it on to our next speaker, which is Anna, who is also an EDJE fellow, and she's a CASC minor graduate this semester, and she will go ahead and talk about the HANA project.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Daniela. My name is Anna, and I'm a senior majoring in occupational therapy, and as Daniela said, a fellow minor in community action and social change. And also been an EDGE fellow for the last 2 years, where I've been a student liaison in Marin City, but I've been a part of the service learning community throughout the entirety of my undergraduate years. So from my freshman year to my senior year, and all I can say is how lucky I am to be a part of it. And as Daniela shared, this might be my last symposium I'm attending too, which is really weird to say, but it's really cool to have come this far. So throughout these last 3 years, I've been engaged at Marin City, and I have found myself in different organizations. So I started off at Women Helping All People, working with Royce as a student at the Finders Keeper Shop, to finding my way into the Scholastic Academy, all because I knocked on a few doors and asked if they needed any help. Then I did some hours at Performing Stars, helping out with the archiving of news clippings, papers, and images of Marin City, which then led me towards assisting in the organization of images and sources for Felicia Gaston in her recent book on the history of Marin City. I've also done a variety of tutoring at Bridge the Gap and at the HANA Project with Betty Hodges. So I have done many things with many people, but overall, it allowed me to create a deeper connection and familiarity with the community, and just so much knowledge with just one part of this county. And in this process, I've made many friends, but also connection, especially with the students that I tutored, to where I'm looking forward to see where they will be in the future, which is a very special connection to have. So overall, my work in this specific area has led me to researching the inequity and separation within the education system of the school district over there at Marin City. The work I accumulated is definitely in correlation with the service I've done. So I do feel I have a very vast understanding of what inequity looks like in the school setting. But I also feel I have learned a lot about the difference in stakeholders and organization leaders in just one community. So in order for me to have recognized this, I do have to start with the fact that I did have a sense of my own positionality and had to do my own learning in order to see these differences. And I recognize that these differences included that these organizations have always really highlighted the history of Marin City. And that is their way of presentation of the community. And it highlighted the history of Marin City, and it really aligns with the organization values they do work with. And I believe that's great, to continue to talk about the historical facts and figures and how that has been such a vast difference about the inequity that we see today in this community. But a big difference between these organizations and the organization I'm currently working with at the HONO Project is that there's this shift to discuss the demographics and accessibility of now. So what does Marin City look like now? And that has been a different perspective that I had to take on too. What do I know about the community now? And so the project I'm working with at the HANA Project includes creating a modules for volunteers to have an understanding of Marin City prior to extending their time to this community. And so I have taken on this perspective of allyship and the necessary knowledge needed before entering a community that someone may not be familiar with. But what I have learned in the process is that I may have these expectations of this experience, and it may not be the same as the stakeholders and those who have to represent the organization. So words I have learned in class and read in papers are not preferred in the presentation of organization, but I still want to align with the process of what allyship may look like. So catering to a specific audience and working with an organization where I want them to feel represented accurately allowed this new learning curve for me as my year comes to an end. And this major reflection comes from simply listening, taking notes, comparing. It's just all that you do at your community if you take a service, if you are in a service learning partnership. And I think it's a very cool full circle moment for me. But as I look forward to the future, all of these learning experiences will help me grow as a future occupational therapist. I'm very lucky to say that as an OT, you can find yourself outside of the hospital setting, like in classrooms in order to help children fulfill their occupation as students, or in transitional homes to help assist people regain their sense of independence and living. So no matter where life takes me in the future, service learning has allowed me to take these communication and listening skills in my back pocket. Just as I have entered the community during my hours within my organization, I have an idea to lead treatments and interventions in the future with this client-centered and client-specific care that occupational therapy is based on. So if you are continuing your service learning journey, what I say is hold on to it and stick to it. And I would also say keep your minds open and always, always, always find the opportunity to learn more from others. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, you guys.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was awesome. And I totally agree with the advice that you just left everyone. Definitely take this as an opportunity to see where service learning can take you. So thank you so much. And we will pass it on to Nicole, who is also an EDGE Fellow and a graduating senior this year.
My name is Nicole White, and I am a senior. My major is social justice, and then I'm also minoring in political psychology. Political science and clinical and counseling psychology. And so I have also worked in the service learning program throughout my whole time at Dominican. And one of the most, for the significant amount of the time, I conducted my service learning in Marin City as well. And Marin City is a very important community to me. My father is from Marin City, and a lot of my family and previous generations are from Marin City. My family migrated there during the shipyard building days and helped build the Marin ship. And then due to racist and discriminatory housing policies, they were not able to move to live in other areas of Marin, so they formed Marin City as a special community for themselves. And so being able to work in Marin City and work alongside my family members has made it a very valuable experience for me and a very personal experience as well. I feel that being able to work alongside my family and advocate for these issues that are so important to us has also been a way to nurture my own identity and has helped me to build and shape my own self and feel confident in who I am and in my roots, which has been very important for me, especially growing up in Marin as African American. It could be isolating at times, so to have that community has been really important. And so I started off working with Women Helping All People. And this is an organization, it's actually run by my great aunt. Um, and we basically, they have a number of different services. I helped work in the Finders Keepers shop, as well as the Scholastic Academy. And during this time, I also worked on my senior thesis, where I basically interviewed people and I researched about the historical factors of Marin City and current forms of displacement that are impacting the community, as well as looking at community resilience and community strength. And this senior thesis it helped me to kind of decide, focus on what I want to do in the future, and kind of narrowed my social justice career down to housing specifically. And then following on this year, I'm taking a housing and ethics of housing and homelessness class, which focuses on basically the history and current policies and practices that affect housing and how housing has been structured. And so this class has also, during this class, I worked with the HANA project for the Save Our City Coalition. And basically, this coalition formed to advocate for housing rights for Marin City residents and to prevent displacement, specifically to prevent the development of a proposed building called 825. And some of the reasons that the Marin City opposes this development is, although it is affordable housing, and we definitely do need more affordable housing in Marin, they're basically concentrating all of the affordable housing in Marin City, which is creating further segregated conditions, and also has threats of furthering displacement and gentrification in the community. Um, and so in my time with them, I've learned more. And after this, I plan to go to grad school to get my master's. And I want to focus my career on creating policy for housing justice to provide affordable housing and prevent displacement from occurring. And my time at Dominican and service learning in these classes has definitely helped me immensely. It's really provided me with that structure and that foundation to flourish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's so great to hear how your thesis was tied into your major, and then good luck on your plans after graduation. That sounds awesome. We will now pass it on to our next speaker, who is also another EDGE Fellow. So many EDGE Fellows today, which is great. And that is Gina, who will talk about her work with youth transforming justice.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gina Dudley. I'm a third-year social justice and psychology major. I also have a minor in pre-law. A little bit about my own story before I get into the bulk of what I've been doing this year is I actually came to Dominican as an education major. And then right after I got here, I was like, oh, maybe psychology is what I actually want to do. And so I switched to a psychology major, but I was in a service learning course. And by the end of the semester, I was a double major in social justice and psychology. It's one of those things where when you know, and I knew I'd found my place. Over the past 3 years, I've had the opportunity to work with several different organizations, including Marin's Community School as a classroom assistant, Next Generation Scholars as a tutor, currently with Youth Transforming Justice as a case manager, and also interning within the Public Defender's Office. So it's given me a really unique perspective on what I'm inevitably now doing my capstone on, which is the school to prison pipeline and how restorative justice initiatives can mitigate its impact for youth. So I've had a really great experience, engaging with the community in the classroom and talking to students, and then also being on the other side once, young individuals maybe have already made contact with the system and hearing their perspectives and their experiences. My research was inspired not only by my community engagement, but also through interviews with different community stakeholders who have just instilled a lot of knowledge. And I feel, as with all the other EDGE fellows who have talked, I just feel lucky to be here, and I feel lucky to have had those conversations, because the core of any community-centered research and any sort of good research is talking to the community and gaining that knowledge directly from the people who are living those experiences. A key conclusion I did come to from all of my conversations is that on the school to prison pipeline, there are several different stops per se. There's not one restorative practice that can be an umbrella solution to the school to prison pipeline. You have to listen to the people experiencing these adversities and look at where the specific issues are caused and where they're happening, and have different restorative practices in place to mitigate those specific circumstances. And from those, there are 5 different areas. First and foremost, in our classrooms, there seems to be a lack of cultural competence and responsiveness. Cultural competence is just understanding the lived experiences of the community in which you're working with, and cultural responsiveness is knowing how to respond to said lived experiences. And then there's also community building circles and problem solving circles, which which can help mitigate this. The presence of resource officers is also another pretty limiting factor for students who are getting involved in the pipeline. A lot of these marginalized and low-income communities in Marin already have pretty negative experiences with police officers and law enforcement in general. And if you don't know what a school resource officer is, it's an officer that's literally stationed inside of the school already. So if you're coming into a school environment where you're supposed to relax and learn, it's really hard to do that when you feel like there's an adult in the room who isn't supporting you and your education to the fullest. So Antonio, who you'll hear after me, with his work at the Juvenile Justice Commission, they actually proposed an idea of a law enforcement liaison officer, which is a little bit different, where they're a resource for when there is a serious incident on campus. And they come in only when serious issues or situations happen, and they're trauma informed. They are culturally competent, culturally responsive, and they know how to empathetically respond to these situations. The most notable part about this position that I see as a great fit is that there's an accountability system. So if the students are not happy or they're having a negative experience, they have a way to report that anonymously and essentially create the environment they want to learn in and they can happily learn in safely. To kind of round out is the restoring communities and community building circles. The core of all of this is encouraging community participation. I came to all of these conclusions through conversations with the community and through time spent in the community. So I believe if we amplify the voices and allow the community to essentially tell us or tell people in positions of power and policymakers what they need and what solutions would truly benefit them, that is how we will see change, and that is how effective change will be made. If you want to see the finished product of my capstone, it goes into a lot of depth. Just shoot me a direct message and I'd be happy to share it with you when I'm done. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. You did awesome. So interesting to hear about your work with that project. Really appreciate it. And now we will pass it on to Antonio, who is the Director of Programs at Youth Transforming Justice, and we'll get to hear more about the work that he does.
Thank you, Daniela. And Gina, great job. I thought this was your last year for whatever reason, and so I'm happy that you're sticking around an extra year. Maybe that means we can continue to work together. Your job here has been amazing. And just to add a little bit to what Gina already shared with all of you, just yesterday, I got out of a meeting with probation, and they had calculated all the data totaling juvenile arrests, referrals, police interactions throughout the county. And there was a real interesting comparison to be made with the students from the San Rafael, or from San Rafael, to those of some of the other school districts, which have either doubled down on their SRO presence, so school resource officers, or have gone rid of restorative practices. And historically, San Rafael was the city that always had the highest student population in juvenile hall. And since they've gone rid of their SRO program and invested a lot more money into restorative practices, we're seeing a downward trend. And I was incredibly happy looking at this data, because I know that not only has our organization been a part of that change, but as well as the different Dominican university students that have dedicated their time to this program, and the many other organizations here in Marin as well. And what I'll mention is that our programming works in two different ways. Anytime that a young person gets in trouble with the law or is on the verge of being suspended, we get those referrals sent to our program, and we run the county peer solutions program, which historically has been called youth court. And this is an opportunity where you have the ability to share what got them in trouble in the first place with a lot of other like-minded youth. And by the end of that program, or by the end of that hearing, they receive what's called a restorative plan. And that restorative plan is to help them reflect, give back to the community, repair harm. And that's where our Dominican University interns step in to making sure that they're monitoring, evaluating, making sure that that young person is completing their restorative plan in a span of 90 days. And they've been great at that. And the other piece is that while we can always continue to take referrals from probation in schools, that's not really getting to the root cause of why a lot of these youth are misbehaving in class. And that's where we've started to move upstream and work at the elementary level with a lot of the youth who are barely starting to experience some behavioral issues at school through community building circles. That's an opportunity where kids just sit in a circle, share experiences, share difficulties, and our Dominican universities as well have been facilitating many of those groups. And the next academic year, what we're hoping to prop up is a mentor program. So once we identify young people who are really showing a high ACE score in those community building circles, and ACE score is an adverse childhood experiences. You can certainly look into that later. We'd like to pair a Dominican university with that young student so they can help guide them through a lot of their day-to-day struggles. So a lot of interesting work that's happening here. And again, we can't do it without you. Now that I'm losing a lot of my Dominican university students, I'm already seeing how challenging the summer is going to be for me since I got to do a lot of this case managing work on my own. So yeah, great work, all of you.
Thank you so much, Antonio, for sharing about what your program does. It's so great to hear that our school has been able to support each other in this partnership. And we will now pass it on to our next speaker, who is Sienna, who will talk about the Dance Art Community Project.
I'm Sienna. I am a sophomore social justice major with minors in performing arts and social change and religion and philosophy. This semester, I have taken self-community and ethical action, and I will be speaking about my experience working with the Dance Arts Community Project. I've been lucky enough to continue with them throughout this entire school year, and I'll be continuing with them into next year as well. This semester, I have been teaching two dance classes at Linwood Elementary in Novato, and also assistant teaching a dance class at the Alboro Community Center, located at Pickleweed Park and Canal. The mission of the Dance Arts Community Project is to, quote, to bring the joy of dance to the children and young adults in the Bay Area who lack access to ballroom, Latin, and other culturally meaningful dance forms. I believe the work of dance arts extends past equal access to dance. It encapsulates equitable access and ability to benefit from the dance program while connecting to cultural wealth. Tarioso's theory of cultural capital, which we have talked about a lot in this class, can be simply and directly applied to children. Children inherit the cultural capital of their family. Many children experience the benefits of social capital when integrated into a rich community. Many of the children I work with through the Dance Arts Community Project come from Spanish-speaking families. Many of them have developed a kind of linguistic capital, navigational capital from a young age that many adults can't even understand. Not only have many of them been in a position to learn a second language at a young age, but they have learned to use that to help translate for family members or community members. They learn to deal with forms for school, documents, applications, navigating government systems. Often English learning students are kind of discounted as not being able to learn as quickly, when in actuality, many of them are forced to learn faster than their peers because they're having to learn a second language as well as whatever new skill that they're taking class for. I come from a low-income household myself and have spent my life navigating Medi-Cal and CalFresh applications and interviews, and my parents are not very tech savvy. And so I was often the one who ended up figuring out those types of forms. However, I had the unearned privilege of navigating a system that I benefited off of. As a white English speaking person, I had privileges that many of my students do not. No one should have to be expected to pick up a second language simply to take an extracurricular activity, but many kids are, and this doesn't make them slower learners. It gives them a form of knowledge and wealth that should be highly coveted. Equal access to dance education is what the Dance Arts Community Project provides these kids with, but also what we must strive for is equitable access, not only having it available, but making it affordable, providing teachers who can speak Spanish and having sensitivity to culture and community of the students. Within this program, I'm really proud of the navigational skills in society that I see represented in kids as young as 5 years old. Our kids are often able to translate faster than us teachers for their friends or support them in learning something new, a new dance step. I recently asked one of my students at Linwood what her favorite part about going to school there was. Before I get into this story really quick, I want to say I'm using fake names for my students just to respect their privacy. So any name that I say is not my students' actual names. So the student that I asked her this question, let's call her Lila. So she said, my favorite thing is that you get to speak Spanish because I can learn Spanish and Bella speaks Spanish. Linwood is a Spanish immersion school and many of the students and staff are Hispanic or Latinx, but many of them, like Lila herself, also do not come from Spanish-speaking backgrounds. So Lila does not come from Spanish-speaking background, but her best friend Bella does. The two of them are very different on the surface from their backgrounds, their likes and dislikes, their personal skills. However, they support each other so literally and completely. Last week, Bella wanted to learn to do a cartwheel, and Lila demonstrated as much as she could and kind of explained it in words, but Bella was still just not getting it, kind of confused. And so Lila went over to her and like physically took her hands and put them on the ground and showed her how to move one leg at a time to land the cartwheel. And in my opinion, Lila showed a very active application of care and care ethics towards her friend. She not only cared that Bella was struggling to learn something, she tried everything she knew to show Bella how to understand this. I think that these two really represent something that we don't often see in the dance world, unfortunately, as someone who grew up in the dance world, of completely supporting each other and wanting to learn at the same rate and eliminating competition. So the story that I shared was about Lila supporting Bella, but they really both support each other. To finish up, I'd like to share a quote. The solution to creating a caring society is to have a society that is based on community, not on individualistic greed. The solution to creating a caring society is to understand that the callous disregard of our fellow man for reasons that we feel we need to be ahead of everyone else is inhuman. I've learned so much from the students I work with. Last week, Bella taught me that snakes don't blink. Bella wants to be a scientist when she grows up, and she loves telling me little science facts. However, the most important thing that I've learned from them, like I said, is that competition is just more division. Lila and Bella do not think of themselves as in competition with each other. They are taking the same class, so they should be able to learn the same things from it. If something is hard for one of them, they will help each other. I have continuously been impressed with the welcoming and supporting communities of the students and staff at Linwood and at the community center in Canal, and I hope to continue working with both of them throughout my Dominican experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sienna. That was such a great quote to capture that wonderful story that you shared with us. It sounds like a very fun project that you got to be a part of. So thank you. And we will now pass it on to our next speaker, who is KatieAnn, who will talk about working with Downtown Streets team.
Hello, my name's KatieAnn Nguyen. Sorry my camera can't be on. My internet's a little bad and the connection's a little spotty if I have the camera on, so it's just off at the moment. But my name's KatieAnn Nguyen, and I'm a chemistry major with minors in global public health, biology, and community action, social change. And I'm in the class CASC 3405 with Dr. Jennifer Lucko, who actually invited me to speak today. And I'm just going to be talking about my experience with Downtown Streets team. I've been with them over the course of this year, and I've definitely felt like I've developed like relationships with them and learned a lot from the community while being with this community partner both in CASC 3400 and then CASC 3405. I've definitely learned a lot, and I've honestly, going in, it felt a little daunting being out in the community, especially since you're so out there picking up like different trash and just being on that beautification team with the different community members out there. But being on the team, I've learned like it's a really welcoming environment. They truly do care for not just each other on the beautification team, but also the volunteers who go with them. I go every Thursday with another friend of mine. Her name's Diara, and she couldn't be here today, but they definitely make sure that we feel comfortable at all times. They check in with us. They're always like, oh, do you need gloves, or like, do you need pickers or anything? And they just want to make sure that we feel comfortable at all times. But from this experience with Downtown Streets team, currently we're reading something in CASC 3405 about Genrite, and it's called The Four Pivots. And one of the quotes that really stuck out to me was, I'll read it for you guys. It's, they have taught me that the most important aspect of social change is not problem analysis, power building, narrative change, or coalition building. It's healing. And that quote really resonated with my experience here at Downtown Streets team. I feel that with them, it's not just about like, oh, you need to get like housing, you need to get employment or anything. It's about, oh, how can we help you, or how can we best support you? And it's both through like the administrative team, like Jesse, who's the supervisor, and the social workers there, but it's also with the team connections among the beautification team members, because they're really there for each other. They really support one another. And seeing that firsthand, it's really enlightening to me, because before I always thought like going into this like community, I was thinking of like homelessness as like a, oh, it's the fault of the individual kind of situation. But being out there in the team and the community and seeing their dynamic with one another, seeing how they work so well with one another, it really opened my eyes to other aspects of like the other aspects of homelessness, such as like you really need that community to be there for you, to support you, and to just in a sense build your own self-confidence and reassurance. Because from my talks with like Jesse, our supervisor, he talks about how like a lot of the beautification team members, they don't know like the basic skills of like how to do a handshake or anything like that. And just hearing that makes me realize like, oh, I've taken so many things for granted. And I just really feel like it's a really valuable experience, and seeing these things and then also hearing what we've been talking about in the literature in class, it really puts things in perspective, and I'm really able to see those connections, because while they might not be very obvious or direct connections, you can definitely see how the literature relates to it. Especially with this quote by Jinrai, it really shows how like Downtown Streets team focuses on that healing aspect. A lot of the community members are those who have been in the position of like losing everything. I had an interview with one of the team members who is currently graduated from Downtown Streets team, and she talked about how she was at a state where she felt like she could never go back to the way things were, or like recover from losing, or she was in a circumstance where she lost everything. And Downtown Streets team, with the work of like the social workers as well as with her other beautification team members, they really helped her build her values, they really helped her develop as an individual. And now she's at a state where she's finally happy, and she feels very like motivated, self-motivated to continue to support both her and her families. So yeah, that was my experience with Downtown Streets team, and it's definitely been a really empowering and very memorable experience.
Thank you so much, KatieAnn, for sharing, and perfect way to highlight how you saw those connections between your work in the community and in your class through literature. So thank you so much. And we will now pass it on to Isa, who will talk about working with Canal Alliance Adult ESL program. And she's also a graduating senior this year. So congratulations to her, and take it away.
Hi guys, so I'm going to share my screen so you can see my project or my capstone. So I am a senior and I'm working with Dr. Emily Wu this year. In September, we were talking about ideas of how to present what I've learned over the course of 4 years. And to be honest, a novel-length thesis did not sound very appetizing or enticing. Dr. Emily Wu said there's other ways to show what you've learned. So I chose a website. And I think a website's super cool because it's a more digestible way to share the information and to absorb the findings. So let me go into a little bit about me, and then I'll cover briefly a couple sections of my project. So I am a senior. I am majoring in social justice and minoring in Latin American studies and Spanish. So originally my minor was not going to be social justice. It was going to be international studies. But after I've spent a whole year doing social justice, my freshman year, I realized I want to continue this. I don't want to go do service, but then leave the canal and my friends. So I decided to do social justice so I could continue my work in the canal with the Canal Alliance, and continue building those relationships. So this project is highlighting people I've met over the course of 4 years who I now consider my friends. The group, I interviewed 11 participants who all identify as being Hispanic or Latino. The target audience for this is people who wouldn't identify Hispanic or Latino, but are interested in expanding their knowledge about this community. And when I originally interviewed and had follow-up conversations with these 11 individuals, I wasn't planning on breaking them up into, at the top, you see first gen, 1.5 gen, second gen plus. But I realized that was a better way to display the information and break up the groups. The group I'm going to highlight today is 1.5 gen. In 1.5 gen, I wanted to highlight because it's not talked about as much. We hear a lot about first gen, second gen, but 1.5 is kind of that hidden group that people don't talk about as much. And those are immigrants who arrived to the United States as kids, usually between 6 to 12 years old. And that group is special because as minors, they can attend public education, K through 12 education in their new country. So they have the opportunity to adapt to the culture, the customs, the traditions and language. And oftentimes when I talked with my friends who identify as 1.5, I originally didn't know they were immigrants because they kind of blend in. They have the slang, the vernacular, like California slang. They say hella, they say homie, all those words. Like I wouldn't know they were born in Guatemala or Mexico, as we'll see. These are my friends that I had the privilege of working with, and they were willing to, I don't know, share information about their immigration stories. And they all identify as 1.5 generation, which they originally didn't describe themselves as 1.5. But once I talked about what it meant, like the age category, like the 6 through 12, they said, oh yeah, that's me. I identify. So 3 out of the 4 are Guatemalan, 1 being from Mexico. A lot more people that I've interacted with are from Central America, specifically Guatemala. There are a few from Mexico, but I should say the population is not as significant as Guatemala. So most of the people that came were 12 years old. So they entered middle school and high school in the United States. And then Michael, who I actually worked with through service learning he was an unaccompanied minor. So I worked with the Opportunities for Youth program with Michael Ordonez on the right. He has been here for 4 years. Based on my interviews, follow-up conversations with these 4 individuals, I identified 3 key themes. Acculturation was one of them. Acculturation varies from assimilation because they're adapting to the practices and values while still retaining their own culture of origin. Whereas assimilation is they're just adapting to the country, like the culture of the country they're residing in, and kind of forgetting about their birth country and those traditions. They also have proficiency in English. And I tried to make this website interactive. I have limited technological ability, but I tried to include a little clip from one of the interviews with Raul Ordonez on the left. I think it's better than like reading a block of text, in my opinion. So I'm gonna play the audio, and this is about his experience practicing English in high school.
And at first, it was very difficult for me to interact with other kind of people.
Why?
Language, first of all, didn't know how to communicate with others. But a lot of people from like Southern America and Central America, they're always like very afraid to even try, to speak to somebody else that it's not the same language. And me as a kid, I was a total opposite.
All right, so that's a little taste of kind of using multimedia to expand on biculturalism. None of them use the word bicultural explicitly, but they all possess the identity of being bicultural, which is they can speak 2 or more languages with relative ease. They can navigate both their Latino community and the dominant English-speaking community of the United States. Though they do have the ability to speak in 2 or more languages, they did express that they have a varying level of comfort when it comes to speaking in English, speaking in Spanish. But Chabeli Wienek here, the female, said that because she can speak English with ease, she feels like she can navigate life in the United States relatively easily. So there's the quote. You can read it there. Though there are a lot of benefits to being 1.5, there are unique challenges as well, such as the visa application, which is so overwhelming. I looked at the website for USCIS and I got like an instant migraine. It's pages and pages of documentation you have to fill out. But luckily, thanks to Canal Alliance, there are resources, community resources to help individuals fill out this process, but it's a lot. And visas do cost hundreds of dollars as well. So there is that. And there's no guarantee that when you apply for a visa, it will be approved. So while you're applying, you could be in limbo as well, not having documentation, which is stressful, to say the least. Additionally, my last unique challenge that I identified was that these individuals sent home remittances, so money to their family members back in their home countries. Besides making an income, paying rent, trying to take care of their immediate needs, they also think about their family members as well. So that could require finding another job, working long hours. All right, so then the last thing, super brief, is emerging themes. And these are mostly for community members to use when they're engaging in cross-cultural interactions. So the emerging themes, quickly, I'll do this one. Building trust was one that I identified. And this picture on the left is me. In Guatemala, I'm the adopted gringo with her friend, which is my friend and her Guatemalan family in Petén almost a year ago. And you can't kind of do that trip and spend time with a family if you don't have trust. That's super important. Building trust. I'm running out of time, so I won't play the clip. More to come. This is a work in progress. If you want to see the finished project, it will be done and that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Isa. That was great. And it was so nice to see how your project could be, displayed in that way instead of like a paper. It kind of shows a unique way to get other people thinking of maybe what they want to do when they're in their senior year and thinking about their capstone and their research project. And with that, that brings a close to our Service Learning Symposium. Thank you so much to all the students who presented, all the community partners that are here. Congratulations to everyone who is graduating. And we are so, so thankful for everyone who spent time today with us to celebrate all the hard work of all the students and the community partners. So thank you so much for letting me be your MC again, one final time. And I really appreciate you all. And I hope that you are enjoying the last couple days in the semester, and I wish you all the very best summer. Thank you so much.